Welcome, driver. This is the Ford Mustang GTD. Tempting to think of this thing as an evolved GT500, and it does have the same engine as the GT500, plus 55 horsepower, but to think of it that way is to completely undersell what this car is. It has a completely unique suspension from the GT500, it is a nearly entirely carbon fiber body, and some of the most fascinating active aero in production today. GTD is not something Ford made up. That stands for Grand Touring Daytona. That's the class that the Mustang races in the IMSA Endurance Series. It's pretty much identical to the GT3 class in the European FIA World Endurance Championship. So in those two classes, in the GTD and GT3 classes, the Mustang races against stuff like the Porsche 911 GT3, the Lamborghini Huracan, the Ferrari 296, BMW M4, cars that you wouldn't normally necessarily think of a Mustang in the same breath as, but here makes perfect sense. The suspension on this car, totally different from what's on other Mustangs. Up front, instead of the struts, you've got unequal length control arms. So the real showpiece, the literal showpiece, is the rear suspension. You've got horizontally mounted, pushrod actuated coilovers back there. And Ford thoughtfully put a little window where the back seat used to be so you can watch them work. There are lightweighting efforts, and then there's what Ford has done to this car, which is just so over the top, nearly unprecedented. Almost the entire body is made from carbon fiber. Everything except the outer door skins and this little bit of the roof line here. Everything else, front fenders, hood, roof, even the rear quarter panels is carbon fiber. Has carbon ceramic brakes. There are optional magnesium wheels. But somehow, it's still 350 pounds heavier than a GT500. Most of that is due to the suspension. So does the fact that it's 4 inches wider than a GT500. So that means all those suspension pieces are just that much longer and sturdier. Unlike Ford's last collaboration with Multimatic, the last generation GT, the GTD is based on an existing product. So how do you tell a Mustang from a Mustang GTD? First of all, the GTD looks like this. It's pretty wild. So you've got this big front splitter down here. We've got this dive plane here, which is part of the performance package, along with the active rear wing. These massive extractors in the hood. Wide fender here, carbon fiber just like most of the body on this thing. These huge vents here to extract air from the wheel wells. We've got an air intake back here to keep the mechanical bits in the back. Cool. Again, this car is about 4 inches wider than the regular Mustang. So you've got a nice swollen fender back here, also carbon fiber, and of course the big active rear wing. This thing is so much better balanced than any other Mustang. So Ford got rid of the 10-speed automatic, and it's got this, the GTD has a rear-mounted 8-speed dual clutch, which gives it an almost 50-50 front-rear weight distribution. You know, it's tenths of a percentage away from 50-50. It also has enormous tires. The front tires on this car are 20 millimeters wider than the rear tires on the Ferrari 296 GTB, which makes more power than this car does. So that car is using 305s to put 819 horsepower to the pavement. The GTD is using 325s just to keep the nose planted. But it does an amazing job. This is one of the grippiest cars we have ever tested, one of the shortest stopping as well, and it is just an absolute ball on the road. There seems to be no end to the grip. We're out here in Palm Springs, California on Ford's drive program for the GTD, but we've actually already had one into the office back in Michigan to test. It was, if not the quickest, then one of the quickest front engine rear drive cars we've ever tested. Zero to 60 in 2.8 seconds, quarter mile in 10.6 at 133 miles per hour. And the skid pad and braking figures were both among the best we have ever recorded from any vehicle of any layout at any price. Skid pad, we got 1.17 Gs, and the braking 70 to 0 miles per hour in 132 feet. Hey, let's see what that feels like. Let's find a straight bit. Okay. Whoa. That was amazing. It sounds like a big supercharged V8 that revs to 7,650 RPM and will do that while sustaining unbelievable cornering loads and is never going to run out of grip, but might run out of road. Great brakes. This thing really needs a racetrack. Good thing we've got one. All right, so track mode, most visible thing it does is it lowers the ride height 50 millimeters. And if you watch those cool dampers in the back, you can watch them compress as it drops the ride height. The other thing that does is it locks out the softer of the two dual rate springs, or, well, two springs, different rates. And so what it's doing when it's dropping the ride height is it is completely compressing that softer spring and leaving just that firmer one to damp the suspension, or not damp, but to allow the movement. And so that gives you a tighter body control And it, keeps the car more level, better wheel control for track driving. It also changes, of course, the throttle mapping and the shift points. The stability control has different settings in track mode. And within track mode, you can also play around with the variable traction control. So, some cars will have variable stability control where you can kind of scale it down. You don't get that here, but what you do get is different stability control parameters in each of the drive modes, plus the adjustable traction control in track mode. My God, what a hoot this thing is! Just incredible grip. And such phenomenal balance. It's really easy to just kind of come out of the turn, just really feel what that outside rear tire is doing and keep it right on the edge of traction. And then lay into it once you get the thing straightened out and can apply all of that tremendous horsepower. And these brakes, we have been lapping these cars for hours now. Track is just punishing this poor rubber.